the South does not, despite all of these policies and bans, that and the things that you hear from the South, there's also so much resistance in the South and organizing and community. And that's how it's always been. Like the South is the home of the civil rights movement. Like Black communities in the South, are the reason why people of color have rights in the US. Like passing the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, which are obviously all under attack in different ways right now, too. But it's like with great repression always comes, very vibrant and beautiful resistance. So I'm
The loudspeaker spoke up and said, communism is Christianity. The loudspeaker spoke up and said, communism. Did you hear that? Give up, give up, give up. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, in 3 or 4 years, American life, as we know it, will be over.
And avoid panic buying. Shop as usual. And avoid panic buying.
I'm Colin Burrows, and this is the Woodstein Media Podcast, Season 4, Episode 2. This podcast is produced on the lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, Anishinaabe, and Odawa peoples. On this episode, I have an enlightening conversation with Bana L. Ghadbanah about the Library Vintage and their campaign to keep their doors open. The Library Vintage in Fayetteville, Arkansas is part vintage store, part community space. It serves as a safe space for the queer and trans community there, as well as serving the larger community in Northwest Arkansas as an inclusive space to gather and learn. It has a crafting area for people of all ages and a free section. They have hosted over 100 events and collaborated with community partners on dozens more. They've hosted queer sex ed classes, documentary screenings, anti-oppressive teach-ins, community meetings, creative reuse workshops, book clubs, plant clubs, drag shows, mutual aid fundraisers, anti-Walmart craft nights, Black, Indigenous, and people of color craft nights, top surgery fundraisers, fundraisers for community members facing deportation, and hosted other groups who put on poetry readings, Nakba Day commemorations, art therapy workshops, sober recovery groups, knitting nights, and more. In their free section, they offer Plan B, COVID tests, HIV tests, overdose prevention supplies, shoes, clothes, and more. They also have a mutual cash jar that supports houseless people in their area. Despite their best efforts, they have had to reach out to the public through GoFundMe to everyone, and I'm quoting here because they say it so aptly, who believes in our gay little dreams. This podcast and Woodstein Media are independently produced journalism. I've been concentrating on college and university, so output on Woodstein is slow, but as this episode proves, it has not stopped. You can support me through Patreon or by donating through PayPal at woodstein.ca. That's WOOD-STEIN.ca. I guess I'm a poor student full-time and a writer, podcaster part-time. My main focus, as far as writing is concerned, has become a series of zines published by Microcosm Publishing about how music and concerts have had a positive effect on me and inspired me. So far, I've written about the positive influence of Buzzcocks, Yeasty Girls, and Fugazi on my life. There will be a link in the description to find out more about those and how to support me by buying those. And I'd like to point out that at least the Fugazi zine is available at the Library Vintage. That's how I learned about them. If you enjoy this podcast, you can support it by listening to more episodes and liking, sharing, subscribing, or reviewing them. This is very helpful and appreciated. Before the conversation starts, here's a little bit of Fayetteville punk rock. This is Rigid by the Flems.
I want to be rigid, so you know not to push me too far, 'cause you'll know I can't take it. I want to glare, but instead I say sorry when I bump into strangers. Excuse me, please. Sorry. Smile, 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 smile. My teeth have been gritting, but I can't bite until I'm alone. When I get home, my teeth sharpen in the silence. I open those in the absence of an audience, hungry enough to bite my own skin. The devil in my head tells me that I can bleed discomfort out, but I let it out and it stained the carpet along with the sponge in the sink that I try so hard not to let grow mold. I want to be rigid, so if you're inclined to call me crazy and leave, you can do it right away. I want to be rigid, so I have a roadmap, a diagram of emotional trauma experienced in the mundane. That's like my anger. That's like my anger. I want to be rigid, so if you move thoughtful, my knees will pass, melt in this terrain. Which makes you question your commitment to your travels, even your treacherous nature. Of the conquest of the blood way.
First of all, introduce yourself so people know who you are. Then let them know about what the Library Vintage is. And
Yeah, sounds good. So I'm Benna. I'm the communications social media manager at the Library Vintage. We are a small business located in Fayetteville, Arkansas, a town in the south that's nestled in the Ozark Mountains. And we function not only as a vintage and retail space, but also a community center that provides refuge and sanctuary for queer and trans people in our town and in our region.
excellent. So I want to get deeper into some of those things that you do that make the Library Vintage more than a retail store, that make it like a community space. I see that you offer classes and
Mhm.
documentary screenings and teach-ins.
Mhm.
Could you talk about some of the classes you offer and what is the difference between like a teach-in and a
Mm,
class? Um,
yeah. Yeah. So we were founded by two fiber artists, Meg and Sav, who work with sewing and crocheting, and they design and upcycle a lot of the pieces we sell. So they have so many skills that they share with the community through classes and workshops. One of our main workshops we do is a mending workshop. So anyone can come and basically you bring something you need to work on, and we learn different stitches. Like I learned like different types of connective stitches that I never knew about. When I wasn't working at the library, I was just a community member. It's how I first got introduced to them, was coming to their mending workshops, because I was like, oh, I have so many things I need to repair, but I don't really know how to use a sewing machine. I don't know how to hem something. And so I learned all those things by just going to the classes and learning from Sav, who's one of the founders. And then we also have, well, one other thing, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a class, but we have a craft circle for Black, Indigenous, and people of color, which is really important in our area because of, white supremacy all over the country, but particularly in our area where, as in like with many places in the South and the Midwest, it's it can be a more conservative, racially hostile area. So I started going to the craft nights, and it's kind of like a skill share where folks will, share how to collage, how to crochet. Though I would continue doing the mending that I learned in classes and come to the craft circle. There's crafternoons, so folks, anyone can just come in, and we have a huge tray, like a giant, shelf, basically all these shelves filled with different craft supplies folks have donated. And we have folks from ages like 5 to 80 who come in and who craft. So, in that sense, it is still like a learning space because we're constantly engaging each other, skill sharing, and also creating a creative reuse space to reduce waste. So a teach-in is more like we had a local ordinance that was going to be really kind of clamp down on graffiti, for example. And we know oftentimes those kinds of ordinances might target racialized groups or marginalized groups, and kind of have language that is discriminatory but in a veiled way. So we had an organization come and share the implications of that kind of ordinance. So in that sense, it's a teach-in because it's about a specific topic. It might be about a political issue that's something we might be voting on as a community. And then the classes and workshops are more like ongoing, usually craft and fiber related kind of skill share moments.
And then seem to do a lot of fundraisers, like mutual aid fundraisers and fundraisers that are, there's more specific fundraisers. And I'll probably end up coming back to your support of the trans community throughout this because that's something that particularly hits home for me because like I'm a parent of a a trans adult now. So yeah, the fundraisers, the mutual aid fundraisers, the fundraisers for top surgery and that sort of thing. Can you talk more about some of the fundraising you do and
Yeah,
how it's done?
yeah. Totally, yeah. So that is something where community members will come to us with their needs. So they'll say, like, I need $9,000 for top surgery, for example. And then we just offer our space for free and then kind of help set up and help provide support for hosting a fundraiser. Sometimes, we'll like sell certain things and just give the proceeds. Or we had a community member, I'm not sure how much I can share, but essentially with all the deportation and ICE harassment that's been going on, she was supporting two friends who were going through that. And so she's used the space to, open her closet and sell her clothes, basically. And so we've had also local groups, like there's a group called Fayetteville Feeds Families, and Friends of Palestine, and they've done fundraisers for Gaza as well. So I think that's really special that, a bunch of young folks who we're kind of far from everything in Arkansas. Like it's not like we're New York or LA or something where we're in the center of these kinds of activities, and you feel far away from like where activism is happening in some senses, but they're working and we're working on a really local level, and then we're able to just come together and then tangibly support and change people's lives, because at the end of the day, a lot of a lot of the struggles people are facing are due to a lack of resources because of the level of inequity in this country and other countries too, but we just know how severe that is here. And Fayetteville, Arkansas is also really interesting where we are because we're right by the Walmart headquarters in Bentonville, and we're also by the Tyson Chicken headquarters and JB Hunt headquarters. And so you have these huge corporations here that really suck dry, honestly, a lot of migrant communities, and exploit them, exploit their labor, and create precarious conditions, but then also have so much wealth in the area. So you really see the wealth gap. Someone told me recently that Fayetteville has one of the highest wealth gaps in the country. So that also means that sometimes we have allies who want to help and they don't know how to help, and we can direct them to a fundraiser, to support someone who's facing deportation or support someone who is needing support fundraising the huge costs of a top surgery or gender affirming care that obviously our state does not provide any kind of support for.
Yeah, and that's one thing I wanted to talk about because, as you've already said, Arkansas is in the South, and I'm from Canada, so we have this, we get this idea of what people are like in the American South. I mean, when it comes to that caricature, or there's people around here that live up to what we're told the American South is like,
Yeah.
more than you do. Like, it's very interesting to be talking to you and having you show a face of the South that is very much not like what we hear it is. So on that topic, reproductive rights are
Oh
being
yeah.
attacked in your area, and you offer things like Plan B for free.
Mhm.
How does that work in a state where those rights are being attacked? I'd almost think, are you breaking the law when you do that, or how does that work?
Yeah, so abortion is banned under the Human Life Protection, that's what they call it, law. And that also reminds me that Arkansas was the first state to ban gender affirming care for trans youth, also in 2021. And in terms of the structural issues that we're facing, so but plan B isn't, abortion per se. So I think that's the loophole that we can work
Okay.
with. And so we have this craft section, we have our actual retail space where we sell a bunch of queer affirming things and also clothing. And then we have our free section. The free section has Plan B, HIV tests, Narcan for overdoses, COVID tests, and clothing, beauty supplies. And we have so many people every single day that come through for our free section, but in particular for the Plan B. I've seen people come out with like armfuls of the Plan B because it is so hard to access. It costs $50. A lot of folks, don't, I think, actually, I'm not sure if some insurances cover that or not, but that's a lot. Like, if somebody is needing that kind of support and it's hard to go to a doctor, get a prescription, get it, like it's so restricted.
Mhm.
So we get donations of Plan B and then we're able to spread that to the community. And it's interesting because there are also even folks that might not even align with our politics. We have like a fuck Donald Trump sign, a fuck ICE sign, like on the front door. So people know what they're coming into when they walk in. It's also part of why we're not a nonprofit because we want to be able to say those things. But some folks who might not even agree with us, need some of the supplies, and they'll come in and sometimes they will literally run in and dash in, grab the Plan B and leave, like because that's how desperate the need is right now. And we're happy to provide that. And I'm glad that it can support folks who, if they didn't have the Plan B, then they might need to get an abortion, which I think doctors face up to 10 years in Arkansas for doing abortions and $100,000 fine, so yeah, that in itself, it's like reproductive, providing reproductive access and support when it's so heavily regulated here. And I think similarly, the overdose supplies are helpful to folks, and the, what was I saying, COVID tests as well, and the HIV tests. Like all of that, because like queer and trans communities often can't access support for sexual health and reproductive health, it's kind of like we just provide that for each other, and it's made it accessible to a wide range of people who otherwise might not be able to have it.
In there, you said that gender affirming care has been restricted.
Yeah.
What does that mean for
Yeah.
trans people who are trying to access that sort of care?
Yeah. So I wanted to get all the details right because I remember, so Arkansas became the first state to ban gender affirming care for trans youth, which means that doctors can't support minors or anyone, with providing hormone replacement therapy, for example. So then the ban, which was Act 626, was struck down by a federal judge, but then the ban was reinstated last year by federal appeals. So
Okay.
we're back to the ban. So it's been like this whole process in the courts and things like that. So most folks I know will go to Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood can provide hormone treatment and support, but it is not a normal situation. And I like to, I think, yeah, I think definitely echoing what you said earlier, like the South does not, despite all of these policies and bans, that, and the things that you hear from the South, there's also so much resistance in the South
Hmm.
and organizing and community. And that's how it's always been. Like the South is the home of the civil rights movement. Like Black communities in the South, are the reason why people of color have rights in the US, like passing the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, which are obviously all under attack in different ways right now, too. But it's like with great repression always comes, very vibrant and beautiful resistance. So I'm really happy that we can play our small role in our town on a local way to at least provide, a pathway to some kind of gender affirming care, even if it's not medical per se.
Okay. On that, what are you able to offer, like in the way of gender affirming care?
So I would say like our drag shows is a form of
Okay.
gender affirming care in some ways. Like we have something called Sunday service, and it allows for people of any gender to fully express themselves, and to perform. And a lot of times, like Sunday service is tongue in cheek, a kind of satire on like a lot of the religious backgrounds a lot of queer and trans folks come from in Arkansas, and it can be very therapeutic. You can see how therapeutic it is for people to kind of perform in an exaggerated way the harmful religious narratives that they grew up with and kind of poke fun at it, in some ways.
Yep.
To me, I think that's like almost a social version of gender affirming care. We offer like sex ed, queer sex ed workshops. We've offered that in the past. And I think any kind of education and just more literacy around queer and trans sexual health, which obviously is not being provided in Arkansas at all, that creates a safer community. Like that creates like it just supports public health as a whole when even just sharing knowledge and skill sets that and vocabularies that they might not otherwise get to have, especially for the young ones. Like we have a lot of high schoolers who come in, college age folks, and they're yearning for a space like this. And we learn from the high schoolers also some of the new policies that they're facing at school that we're shocked by, even having grown up in the state. We're like, oh my gosh, things are getting worse. Like the things that they're taught in school now, like the attacks on education and knowledge are really scary. So they come to our space to learn. Like we sell a lot of queer and trans books as well, that I'm sure are on banned book lists here, like not something they could get at their high school. So we're just by being a site of learning and community and art, I think like we provide that kind of gender affirming care. And then the literal part around resources is like the mutual aid fundraisers for top surgeries and things, which are ongoing.
On what you sell, like you sell like a lot of upcycled things, but you also have like I know I found out about you because you were stalking a zine that I wrote.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
so I noticed that, and then so even if you're stalking from the publisher that publishes my stuff, you're
Mhm.
probably stalking a lot of books and stuff that open people's eyes to a lot of different culture. So is that another way, would you say like some of even in the retail side, some of what
Mhm.
you sell and stock is, well, I'm kind of expecting. So when you're saying like right on your front window, there's fuck Trump, fuck ICE,
Yeah.
and all that, that you're gonna be stocking items that are maybe kind of radical for a small city anywhere, maybe. Like, how big is Fayetteville? Is it?
So when I was growing up here, it was 30,000, but now it's about 90,000. So we're
Okay.
home to the University of Arkansas. And when the students come in town, that's why it varies so much. It'll be between 50 to 90,000, depending on if students are in town.
Okay, so with it being a university town, it's probably, I would assume, like any other university town I know, a lot of new ideas get introduced into the kind of DNA of a city because people are there to learn and expand their horizons, I guess.
You
So,
know, I don't know if you know that our university is, I think, one of the only ones in the country where they're legally required to have the Ten Commandments in every
oh,
university building. It was passed by the Arkansas legislature. Yeah, Act 573. Yeah. It's
okay,
ridiculous. So they're not quite the learning. And let me not generalize. There's a lot of folks. Fayetteville does have, the university brings diversity, like a lot of international students, a lot of people of color, will come as educators, as students. So that part is really incredible. Like we'll have different student associations from places around the world, but there is a kind of like homogenous sort of frat boy, like I don't know, sort of dominant culture going
okay,
on that,
yeah.
but then there's a very strong counterculture too. Like Fayetteville is also known as a place in the 70s that had a lesbian commune named Sassafras. And our natural food store started off as a communal collective space, Ozark Natural Foods. And so there were these like flower children and things like that. So there's a lot of different things going on here. So the things that we sell, I'm actually surprised, working at the library vintage, how many people love what we sell, even people that you might not typically think are left in that sense. So, like we have the zines from Microcosm, like How to Resist Amazon. We're in a
Mhm.
town that's run by Walmart, basically. So, How to Resist Walmart, and so people will pick that up because if they're from here, they might be curious about, like, even if they don't agree, like, oh, what is this other way of being? We have a lot of queer books and even the items that we make, like, they're like, you know, kind of defying gender binaries in a lot of ways. Like it'll be like a tie, but it's like bedazzled, it has pearls all over it. So it's like, somebody that might be traditionally masculine, like they might grab it and then it gives them a space to express themselves differently,
Mhm.
or vice versa. So we try to, like, we're definitely just, it's somehow working that we're just true to ourselves and that's attracting a wide range of people. Like people will come in the store and just go around and like touch our items. Like we have a lot of really funny bumper stickers. Like one bumper sticker we have is like I'm speeding because I'm on my way to turn your kids gay and get an abortion. And a lot of people will buy that bumper sticker, like, or we make some of our own bumper stickers, that will say like, oh, I'm gay because I went to Christian camp, like summer camp in the eighth grade, or like, things that resonate here with the particular like experiences, but also the dominant culture and the things people have had to do to kind of like resist that.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. People love
Um,
our bumper stickers. They're actually a big attraction. Like folks will come in just for our funny bumper stickers that kind of like poke fun at everything that's going on. Like we have one that's like all red, white, and blue, and it has like an eagle and it just says America's so embarrassing. And people will grab that, you know.
so, yeah, throughout all this, you've been repeatedly talking about Walmart, anti-Walmart things that you do. And one of the things you do, is it a anti-Walmart crafting or
Yeah, we
something?
did have. Mhm.
Okay. Do you want to talk about what that is? Like how do you
Yeah.
make that anti-Walmart?
Yeah. Well, one thing we try to do in general, we call ourselves a low waste space. So Walmart is kind of notorious for the level of consumption and waste that it creates and produces just by the sheer amount of production that they're doing and this expectation that you go to a Walmart and it's always, stocked with brand new things and they're constantly just like wasting things that aren't bought. So when you're from the place where Walmart was made, it's like there's a high value on like low quality, but like a lot of items that you're just used to seeing. Like I'm from Syria originally, and but I grew up here, but I go home to Syria, and in a country like Syria, because of different reasons, war and so many things going on, like you don't go to a grocery store and just expect everything to be there. You have milk that you get from the local farmer. You have tomatoes that the local tomato truck sells you. Like everything has a source and you know where it goes back to. And that also means that sometimes there just aren't tomatoes or sometimes there's no parsley because it's out of season. And everyone is connected to those cycles because they don't even have capacity to overproduce. But when you come to a place like Fayetteville or Bentonville or Northwest Arkansas, there's such a high level of consumption. And I'm often shocked by it just because I've seen, other conditions that don't get to live with this level of consumption. So when we put on these like anti-Walmart craft nights, the idea is it's kind of a learning space to figure out how can we use less and how can we all turn our trash into treasure, basically. So we offer support on how people in their day-to-day lives can reuse this trash, this packaging material, these objects that end up in landfills, like to turn them into a cute pair of earrings. So we make like our own earrings from like Barbie doll shoes, that we've gotten that we're going to get thrown away, for example, or
Mhm.
things that people will donate in the store. Like we'll do a craft around that. If someone's like, oh, I have all this, like a half crocheted blanket, do you want it? We can turn that into some kind of upcycled t-shirt or things like that. So that's the idea.
It sounded like you do allow kind of like social services in to use the space. Can you talk about some of the social services that you allow or
Yeah.
bring in?
Yeah, so one example is our mutual aid cash jar. And that is basically two different jars that anyone can donate to, and they just put cash in the jars. And some houseless folks in the area will come to the store and be like, I'm super hungry. Do you have any cash in the jar? So the idea is that, we can support them and we try to prioritize queer folks who might need that cash. But that's an example of it's like a small way to kind of embed a social service into our physical like retail space. And then it also makes people feel welcome. I would say the free shelf is essentially a social service because of the Plan B and the other resources. Folks are coming to our store just to, just because they need those things oftentimes. And even the craft table, I will see like parents dropping off their kids and just letting the kids stay for the afternoon to use the crafts. So to me, that's like, and we take that really seriously. Like, we want it to be a really special and meaningful and safe space, for kids as well. Like, even though some of our things, yeah, I don't know. they bring their kids and things. So I see like such a range of ages come into the shop. And to me, that reflects on the kinds of social support that we provide different groups.
And then do you allow kind of in the things that you're doing? I guess you already talked about it a bit in the teach-ins. Do you allow or invite different community organizations to also come in and present to people or help people?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So one of our main partners that we work with a lot is, and also one of our founders co-founded this group, is called Northwest Arkansas Trans Night. And so we'll partner with them on a lot of events, and whether that means that we host them or like we do the queer sex ed workshops, for example, and they can come into the space, or we'll help amplify whatever they're doing, or we'll help organize and like show up day of the event and support each other. There's been several. We're super connected. A lot of times too, we'll just get invited to other people's like makers markets to vend and things like that, and we'll build connections there. Yeah, I would say the NWA Trans Night is one of the biggest ones. There's Backroom Social Club. There's just other also local small businesses who we're all really supportive of each other, and we're also might have similar politics. Like, for example, there's, certain boycotts like for ICE, that have been called for nationwide, and we'll sort of ally with the other businesses that are in support of that, if that makes sense. Yeah, and like amplify what they're doing and just try to support them as much as possible too. And we get a lot of support, which is sweet.
Just on that, because you already talked about fundraisers for people who are facing deportation. Has there been like I've been watching a lot of the things about ICE from outside the country and looking at it and going, holy fuck. That's
Yeah, it's
there's
bad.
no other way to say it. But has it been bad in the Fayetteville area? Has there been?
Yeah, so with Tyson being headquartered here, there's a lot of exploitative dynamics happening with migrant workers. So so there's Bentonville, Fayetteville, and Springdale, the three sort of big cities in this region. Bentonville is where Walmart was founded. And then we're kind of considered this little, almost because of the university, we're considered like more open minded in a way, like we were talking about earlier, where there's some kind of counterculture. And then Springdale is, so Fayetteville's pretty demographically white, and Springdale is pretty Latinx, majority Latinx. And there have been several people that I know who have been disappeared by ICE in Springdale. And it'll be literally, I know someone who is documented and had status and was still deported. So that's common. It's not, like I said, we're kind of in the periphery of the US in a way. So you don't hear about it the same way you might Minnesota or Minneapolis, LA, because those are such big, large scale situations. But it is happening here. And I think that is what's hard, is there's not a lot of press about it. And it's very under the table almost.
Yeah, because like here we definitely heard about Minneapolis,
Mhm.
Portland, LA, and people rising up in those big cities and whole neighborhoods rising up. But then, yeah, smaller places across the US, we don't hear the details of, but we have to assume that it's happening there too. It's kind of,
Yeah.
we've talked a lot about what you do there at the Library Vintage. Do you want to talk about what the GoFundMe and the campaigning to keep the Library Vintage going? Why is that happening right now? Yeah, why do you have to launch a campaign?
Yeah, so we have our GoFundMe because we are, despite our best efforts and so many different experimental models we've worked with, from like we ship out some of our stickers that I mentioned earlier to different shops around the country through a fair trade platform called Fair. We, put on like fashion shows showing our original designs and things like that. At the end of the day, I mean, and also everyone who runs the shop, I'm the oldest and I'm 32. So they're
Okay.
between the ages of 24 and 29. And this is just the first time everything is like, a learning process. It's like everyone wanted this space to be a safe space for queer and trans people of all ages. And we've been able to do that, but it's been very hard maintaining ourselves as a small business. And like I said earlier, we didn't want to be a nonprofit because at this point in the US, there are so many restrictions on what you can say in terms of if you do want to secure funding. And we didn't want to create that kind of space because the reason we're such a refuge for folks is because we're so open with what we believe. So we just haven't been able to stay afloat and we get in a deficit. And a lot of it is due to this opening debt that we had just to open the shop, which was to get furniture, to pay rent, to get inventory. And then that we've done a couple debt relief campaigns that like help us get a lid on it. And then it just continues to grow. We've explored every option you can think of, talk to experts, things like that. And we didn't want to, we felt a lot of shame and just kind of, yeah, like we didn't know what to do. And we were facing a decision of like, we're basically going to have to shut down if we cannot pay the bills. And the community won't let that happen because we love the community and the community loves us back. Like there's so many people that come in every single day and they're like, I will not let this happen. I will not let you go under. And even though sales are doing well, they're not enough to cover our expenses. And the main thing we want to do is pay off this debt that we have, that has accrued from the opening costs. And at least once we pay that down, we can try to move forward. We also have like we've sat and ideated and envisioned expanding the space, and we all really want to expand. Where we're located is a very like not a place that gets foot traffic. It's kind of like an awkward, jammed into like a random strip mall off, not in a place that folks that go to the university or live downtown, like kind of it's hard to access. And so we've been looking for a new space, but we were like, we can't really get a new space until we face our debt and we don't know. We were just turning to the community. We were thinking we have like 10,500 Instagram followers. If everyone gave us $3 or $4, then we could stay open. And not only that, we could shift to a better space that's more accessible and launch. We have even more programming that we're all dreaming of that we want to do, but we also have to be realistic with our resource limitations. We're also constantly applying to small business grants, and we did get one recently. So that allowed us to kind of stay afloat for another month. It was a local community. It's called the Weavers, like people who weave community together. like small businesses that provide that space. So we feel really grateful for that. But this was kind of a last resort because, to be honest, we just didn't know what else to do. We've tried so many different things, and we're just hoping that we can stay open till the end of the year. A lot of other friends that we have who were small businesses have had to close. Like we had another vintage store next door who closed down. There was like a local music space and cafe that recently closed down, and we're just like crossing our fingers that at least we'll make it to the end of the year.
Okay. Well, I hope you do. And assuming you do, you just said that you have all kinds of plans, things bubbling around, and great things could happen. To leave this on kind of a bright or hopeful note, do you want to talk about some of those great things you'd like to see happen, even if you can't make the promise that they will happen because you haven't successfully raised the money yet? But
Mhm.
what bright things could we see happen if the library vintage is successful in the campaign?
Yeah. Well, our main thing is we just want to get into a bigger storefront. We're currently in a really small space, and we're constantly reworking the space, whether we're painting it or like doing little mini renovations, trying to make it more inviting. But if we had a bigger storefront, like for example, we don't even have a working toilet. And that's like a
Okay.
big deal for folks that, like have disabilities or have children. Like we would love to be some of the spaces we're looking at, like have, multiple bathrooms. Like for us, it sounds small, but it's like that would be success to us, is having a space that can actually sustain how big our community is. We want to, and hopefully the bigger space, have something called the archives, which is, so one key thing I forgot to mention is part of our low waste model is that you can buy anything in the store, but you can also check it out. And that's why
Okay.
we're called the library vintage. So you can check
Okay.
out the zines, you can check out the books, you can check out the little ties, you can check out a pair of earrings, and it's for a much cheaper price than buying the item. So it makes it accessible. And then folks share, and we have less waste, and we're more sustainable that way too. So they bring back the clothes, we wash the clothes, they get cycled back in, and then the clothes like have this little card, and you can read the history of like who checked it out before you, and it tells like a story. It's a really cool situation. So we want to expand that and create, we're dreaming up this space called the archives, where there's rare books, there's records, there's other things that you can kind of check out that are along the sort of like that share that sort of learning and creative reuse theme. So maybe radical books that they might not have, in other spaces. And then the archives itself, like folks, we would envision it as a kind of a co-working space, and people come in and they can like sort of check out the books or check out clothes and then come and stay and have a sort of membership to use that space as well. So just a lot of different, we have like so many ideas. It would be a great space to have like fashion shows, or art, like an art space, like, but we're currently so small that we're limited, and we have to go do our events elsewhere at other local venues and things. But that would be
Okay.
ideal if we could expand and have our archive space.
I think that's everything I was thinking of running through,
Mhm.
unless there's anything you want to get in there that you're thinking of that we haven't talked about.
I would say I don't even want to give it any attention, but we have some of the issues we face are there is some backlash from,
Okay.
it is like a red state. I don't know how much I can fully say, but like we've had people that don't want to rent to us, for example. And so we have difficulty in that sense. And it's part of why we've had to stay in our smaller space, but we're doing our best. And we yeah, like we've had, our landlords say you have to take down some of your signs, for example, that we have and we've had to contact the mayor and like check what our rights are, and she's actually been really supportive of us. So it's interesting. So we have these challenges, but we also have a lot of supporters. And I think if more people knew our story and the kind of local support we provide, they could understand us better. And yeah, I'm grateful for you doing this podcast and for reaching out to us. And I'm so glad that we carry your zine as well. And I
I'm
hope
glad
that
too.
more spaces like this, yeah, can
Okay.
exist.
So since you just brought it up and you mentioned like, because throughout this you've been saying that there is a lot of community support. And then
Mhm.
you brought up backlash there, and you said that from like landlord level and that sort of thing. But has there been community backlash or anything from like, I don't know how far that would go. Like I don't, have you just had to deal with people maybe who see your signs and come in to say negative things?
Mhm. It's more on like social media. So they might leave like a slur, like a transphobic or queerphobic slur. We've seen that. We've seen like on our Google reviews, most of them are great, but some of them say like, oh, this is foul, this kind of foul language, just because we have a sign that says fuck Donald Trump, which I think is pretty reasonable. I don't think it's, I mean, but, or they'll say that that's hateful and things like that. And that is hard when you are a business and you want to be like, it's hard if you're doing your best every single day and then someone's political opinion differs from you and they leave you like a 1 star just because of that or whatever.
Mhm.
I wouldn't say it's very serious to us. Like we often joke about those things, and we're lucky in that, yeah, like we, talked about earlier. Like we do have a lot of support. It can. So like one person left a hate comment on our Instagram that was homophobic, and we are actually making T-shirts out of it because we thought it was, like we'll kind of troll them back if that makes
Okay.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
does.
Hmm.
Well, it's been great to talk to you, and it's been enlightening because, like I said, you hear about the American South, and it's always like anywhere in America that I've traveled, I've always
Hmm.
met really cool people. So,
Yeah.
um, you hear different things about certain areas, and
Hmm.
it's always awesome to meet people who break that mold. What you're doing definitely does that, and it's awesome to hear about and support.
Hmm.
I hope other people will, like, you'll get the support locally, and other people from a distance might support you too. Um, and then it would be really cool if, because I'm not traveling to the US right now, um,
Hmm.
but after all this is over,
Yeah.
I hope to go back there again sometime. And it would be awesome if you're still open and
Yeah.
I can walk in there and see my zine on your shelf in person. And
Yeah.
yeah, because I think what you're doing is really cool. And that's it. Um,
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, you're always welcome to, you know, bring your family and loved ones. And when things are less chaotic, everyone's welcome to come by to our little shop in Fayetteville.
okay. Well, I hope to one day.
Yeah.
Because it'll mean things have got better for you, I
Yes.
think.
Yeah, we can only hope.
Yeah, because yeah, right now I agree with your sign that says fuck Trump.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot for doing
Thank you
this.
so much.
All
Yeah,
right.
thank you. And thank you for these amazing questions too.
Okay, thank you.
looking for purpose in the current circus, if you're seeking respect and attention, if you're in need of a gig that'll make you feel big, come with me and put some folks in detention. Just last week was kinda tough, I put a kid in cuffs. I zip-tied a lady to a van. We can sneak around town, I'm working folks down. I hear they get a great benefit plan. Join ICE, boy ain't it nice. Join ICE, take my advice. If you're lacking control and authority, come with me and hunt down minorities. Join ICE. See, I failed the academy, the cops weren't having me, the army didn't sound that fun, so I found me a paramilitary operation that was keen to hand me a gun. I got picked on in school, I never felt that cool. There's a hole in my soul that just rages. All the ladies cut me down and I felt like a clown. But will you look at me now, I'm putting folks in cages. At ICE for respect and power. Join ICE, I hear they got great hours. There's a sign-on bonus of 50 grand. They're in need of you needing to feel like a man. Join ICE. Look at them go. Well, if you're looking for thrills and you're wanting to kill, but you don't want to travel far, they'll give you some chemical spray, and in a couple of days you'll be shooting women in their cars. If you've been prone to failure and your life's been hell, you're entitled to some compensation. They'll give you some federal immunity to kill with impunity. To give a salute, they'll put you on location. Join ICE, they're only taking the best. Join ICE, could hardly take any less. If you're low on options and needing a plan, they're in need of you needing to feel like a man. Join ICE.
More Fayetteville music. The stinging contemporary protest music of Jesse Wells, encouraging you to join ICE. Thanks for listening, and thanks again to Ghadbanah for the interview. Visit woodstein.ca, that's WOOD-STEIN.ca. You can support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Colin Burrows. Like, share, comment, follow, and support Woodstein Media and this podcast. Have a wonderful day.